hopefully it all comes out and people can legally talk about it at some point. But
can you talk about it without?
I know there's been multiple contact events, like
coordinated
straight up contact events. One of them is revealed in the film actually, but there are more. There was several of the people in my film talk about an event that happened at Hallerman Air Force Base where 2 non-human crafts approached the base, one landed, beings walked out and interacted with Air Force officials and CIA officials. And a couple people go on the record talking about that in the film. But there have been other events, I've been told.
How are those beings described?
They were described as tall, slender, humanoid. And the another thing that I heard that gave me chills was that someone involved with a recovery interacted with a non-human being that was dying and heard thoughts in his head that said, "You humans don't know your full potential." And that was said to me by a very senior, older guy from the intelligence community. And I thought that was pretty incredible. Also, just the extent to which the legacy program is real. This isn't like 50 guys, sitting in a quiet, dark room. You're talking about a massive program with thousands of people going to work every day and dealing with this. And to me, that is mind-blowing,
Yeah.
The guy next to you at the pizza place, on a Saturday night might be working on this during the day,
Right.
The guy who, the other father at your kid's Little League game.
Yeah.
This is what he deals with, right? The fact that is a thing. And, we had a similar dynamic for the Manhattan Project. There were always people working on it and they kept it secret, right? And their neighbors and friends didn't know. But this is that on steroids. So, after the Manhattan Project, which was had a budget in the billions, this situation arose. And it had to be even more secret than the Manhattan Project because the Manhattan Project, we found out in hindsight, leaked, right? There were moles.
Right.
So we needed to make this even more secret and give it more money and more resources and more, counter intel.
And more threats.
Which is counter intel, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, threats if you reveal those secrets. But it's like the more this stuff gets discussed, the more I go back to what Lazar said. Because what Lazar is describing from the 1980s is exactly what these people are saying now. They've had these things. They've been trying to figure them out. They've been working on them. At least in the 1980s, they hadn't totally cracked it yet. But they did know how to operate them and that they would do these tests. But everything was so compartmentalized. He said he wasn't allowed to talk to the metallurgist. There was different people that were assigned to it.
Yeah.
What they were assigned to do was to try to figure out how the propulsion system worked.
Yeah.
And then there was other people that were assigned to try to figure out how the metallurgy was formed. Because whatever it was seemed like it was 3D printed. It didn't have any seams.
Yeah.
And when he talks about it, it sounds exactly like what people are talking about today, which is really bananas.
Yeah.
Because this is late 1980s, and he's the first guy to crack through with this stuff.
Yeah. Everything is so, in that secret program, everything is so siloed out where you could have one team of defense contractors who are working on one thing. They're not even told it's from an alien spacecraft. They're just told, here's the thing. It might be Russia. It might be China. Tell us how it works.
Right.
They're just kept in a little bubble. And one of the issues now is that everything's become so overclassified and so siloed that it's actually hurting progress. And that's a lot of the scientists in my film are voicing that. And one of the other things I learned recently that isn't in the film. Jay Stratton, who ran the UAP task force, he told me that during that time, he had started a talk with one of the senior scientists, Lockheed, who was frustrated by how overclassified everything was. It even made it hard for the defense contractors to get the right manpower and brains on it because not everyone can be cleared to do the work, right? There's all these red tape hurdles to progress, right? And so they had made a plan to move one of the crafts that had been recovered that was in Lockheed's possession into the possession of the UAP task force. And then the task force was going to be able to put more brain power towards it. And then the head of science and technology at the CIA shut it down in the middle of the transfer. They had actually secured a hangar on a military base and prepped it to be a classified hangar that would hold this craft, and they were stopped. So the issue of overclassification.
Did they know what happened after that?
Yeah, the CIA just shut the whole transaction down, and the craft stayed in Lockheed's possession. And then that particular leader within Lockheed died about 2 years later. So the effort kind of stopped. He had cancer. The overclassification is definitely a hurdle. for this. And our competitors don't necessarily have that. Like there's no free will in China. She can just be like, hey, you're the smartest guy graduating your class. You're going to go work for the nation on this,
Right, period.
And here, the problem is no one knows it's real. One of the things I hope the film changes is it makes the scientific community know that this is a valid area of inquiry. This is real. It's a real situation. And there's a ton of problems for the next generation of engineers and scientists to solve, And so hopefully it inspires them and helps us make progress, because there's a lot of progress that could be made here.
Well, it certainly seems like it, but it's like one of the things that you guys propose in the film that I think may be the only way forward is some sort of a mass amnesty to all these people that did lie to Congress and probably misappropriated funds and maybe stole a little bit here and there. Like if that doesn't happen, no one is going to push to make this public. No one's going to push for like actual full disclosure, because it leaves them too exposed. And if they do have the kind of power that they must have to be running an organization of thousands of people working on something with unbelievable amounts of money being transferred to these programs, they don't want to let that go.
Yeah.
Like this is like it's a honeypot that they're drawing from, right? And they're probably still taking too much, or there's no oversight. You're still lying to Congress. And you'd have to have some national security amnesty program saying, look, in the interest of national security, it's critically important that we get all of our best people working on this. The only way we're ever going to really do that is to completely reveal that this is actually really happening. This is real crafts from somewhere or something. We have them. We'll tell you where we have them. And I think right now, people wouldn't even freak out, because I would think that people would freak out if there was some sort of official narrative of disclosure. But that's sort of been breached, right? The New York Times breached that in 2017.
I think this film is that. I mean, this is
Film
34 credible people putting their reputation and name on the line, which I honestly, Joe, I think it's stronger evidence than any video or photo. These days, you could put a 4K video of a giant craft over Vandenberg, and half the human population will say it's AI,
right,
or creating some visual effects program. But someone of note putting their name and reputation on the line, their career on the line, the rest of their lives on the line, to say this is what I know to be true. To me, that's the greatest evidence that exists. But I do think, to your point, amnesty is something that's gonna have to be figured out, because while it's hard for anyone to accept letting people off the hook for wrongdoings, right? It does seem like it's in the best interest of the bigger picture.
100%.
Because these people just they have no incentive to come forward with what they've learned. And so, to quote Rubio in the film, he says, look, this is not a endeavor to go and punish anyone, but we need to know what they learned.
Right.
And I think he's totally dead on. And,
is he in favor of some sort of an amnesty program as well?
Yeah, he says on camera in the film, he's like, I'm not trying to punish anyone. I need to know what they learned, because taxpayers paid for this, and it's in our interest to know what's going on. But the other thing that's needed is real whistleblower protection, not the whistleblower protection that's been passed so far, like much stronger legal protections, so that people like the folks I talked to, the special forces guys I talked to, were going to come forward and then decided they thought to be forfeiting their lives. You've got to change that set of circumstances. You got to make those people feel like that's not going to happen to them.
Right.
And what I think ultimately is going to have to happen, and I wouldn't be surprised, man, if it happens soon after the film comes out, I think a sitting president has to step to the microphone and say, definitively, humanity's not alone in the universe. We have recovered technology of non-human origin. So have other nations. There is a high-stakes secret Cold War race to reverse engineer this technology. We need to win this race, and the U.S. intends to lead in this new chapter. I think that needs to happen, like a level set of basic facts, and I really do think it will happen.
Well, if that is going to happen, I think Trump might be the only guy that's willing to do something crazy.
I think it's very likely that he does that. I know that he is aware of the film. I know he's aware of what people in his administration say.
Has he watched it? You know that?
He has not watched the film, but I know he's very aware of it, and I know that they are discussing internally how they're going to react to the film publicly. And I also know that he has very recently, tasked Tulsi Gabbard with getting to the bottom of the situation and finding out for him what he needs to know that he doesn't know.
Really?
Yeah, and as Rubio said in the film, Rubio says on camera, on the record, on the film, that this has been kept from sitting presidents. And he goes into detail on how that's been done and how it's the career bureaucrats in certain elements of the government that control this information and just wait presidents out and don't feel like they have a need to know.
Right. Well, there were some people that tried to find information out in the beginning of the Trump administration. Who was it? There was someone that talked about it on record and said he was told at every turn that you don't have the clearance.
Yeah, yeah. But here's the thing. Trump actually found out about the base facts in his last presidency and was contemplating stepping to the microphone then.
What base facts?
So Jay Stratton, who ran the task force, he says on camera in my film that he briefed that Mnuchin, the Secretary of Treasury, asked for a briefing on the lay of the land because Trump asked him to get the briefing, and Trump had already known that the base facts that we're not alone in the universe, that there's been recovery of crashed craft, right? He knew those base facts, and he told Mnuchin that he was thinking about going public. And so Mnuchin reached out to Stratton to get a briefing, and he told Stratton that the reason he wanted the briefing is because he needed to be able to evaluate what the impact would be to the economy if the president decided to step to the mic and tell the world we're not alone. And Stratton tells the story on camera in the film, and I've heard a lot more about it off camera. So we know Trump contemplated doing this already. Now I think the release of this film and Rubio's involvement puts enough on the table that it makes it easier for him to do.
I think they would have to have some sort of a plan in place if they were going to say that, right? Like the amnesty plan, the idea behind it would have to be in place. If someone's
or at least grab control of the situation and say that this is real and the U.S. intends to lead the way. Because the other factor that the White House has to keep in mind is you don't want Xi or Putin being the guy to do that.
Right.
You don't want them to have that moment, right?
Right.
Something I always think about with regards to that moment of a president stepping to the mic. When we entered the space race, Kennedy gave that big famous speech, right? He was like, "We're going to lead in space." Technology, space technology, like nuclear technology, has no conscience of its own. It's up to man to use it for good or bad, and we're going to make sure it's used for the betterment of all mankind, and we're going to lead the way. That was his whole rallying speech, right? And it made the whole scientific community be like, we're going to help the U.S. win, rah, 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 right? I think that's needed in this race. We need all the support of the scientific community, of academia, the kids coming out of MIT. We need them putting their brain power towards this, and I think the White House knows that. And it's also that's the greatest TV moment a leader could have in the history of humanity. Step into the microphone.
Do you think Elon knows?
Look, I've seen him obviously talk to you about it. I think he knows a lot.
Yeah, me too.
I don't think you get the contracts and the clearances you need to operate in space without some horse trading.
Yeah, when I went to SpaceX, I'm like, motherfucker, you know everything. There's no way you're launching these fucking things into space without them keying you in on exactly what's going on. He's just sly about it.
Well,
he goes, well, if they are aliens, they're certainly all subtle. That's what he says. Are they really? I don't know, man. I
think it's impossible to operate in space like he does and not be aware of everything. And also at the level he operates clearance-wise. I held a secret screening at the National Space Symposium earlier this year, which is the Super Bowl of the space industry. It's like 60 people, heavy hitters from the space industry. We didn't promote it or publicize it at all, but there were a dozen guys from SpaceX there, and they all seem very aware of everything revealed in the film.
Yeah, I'm positive.
He's
my friend, and he won't tell me.
He's a legend.
He keeps a lid on it.
He's a legend.
But how would he not know? If it is, and some people have told me he knows he knows some things, so whatever. But the point is, people are good at keeping secrets. That's real.
100%.
Even people that aren't notoriously good at keeping secrets are good at keeping secrets when they have to be.
Do you think if you put yourself, you've interviewed Trump, do you see him doing that, stepping to the mic and telling us the truth?
Someone talks to him about it and convinces him it's a great idea. If I had an hour with him.
I mean, it's literally the single, in my opinion, the single greatest moment a leader could have.
Well,
in the history of the world.
if he could be the guy that blows the lid off of it, that would definitely help with his legacy too, which I think would be a good way to convince him. We're so vulnerable. And that's one of the weirder things. Like, so first we should get into what you do, because you have a very interesting theory. Tell everybody what your background is, first of all.
Yeah, all right. That does seem like a good place to start. My background is in anthropology, biological anthropology. My research mostly focuses on evolutionary anatomy, biomedicine. I've done some archaeology, various places around the world, in Montana. But the reason I'm here, I assume, because according to my friend Matt, we were butchering a mule deer, I think I shot. And I was like, yeah, I got to go to this conference. And I was like, do you want to know what it's about? He's like, nobody gives a shit about what you do other than UFOs, man. I was like, damn it, he's right. Like, I did actually used to do a lot of what I thought was cool stuff. But no, the main thing is that I've become known for advocating for this idea that UFOs and the aliens are actually our time-traveling future human descendants. I wouldn't even say as opposed to extraterrestrials, because I do think that's a component too. I oftentimes get pigeonholed. People are like, oh, you just think they're all time travelers. I don't. I actually say this all the time, but it doesn't matter. I do think there's a lot going on. But my background and the reason I approach this question this way is because there's a lot of characteristics of these aliens that look so hominin. They look just like us. And specifically what we'd expect to see in our hominin future if the same evolutionary trends continue into the future. So I kind of just tie those things together. And even the saucer-shaped craft seemingly are time machines themselves. So that's kind of the Cliff Notes version.
Well, it's a theory that a lot of people have independently sort of come to, right?
Yeah, especially recently.
And the concept of, well, if you just think about ancient man. I was watching this documentary on Neanderthals last night about this one intact Neanderthal skeleton that they found that it had sort of been, he had died in a cave, and there's stalagmites. Is stalactites or mites? How do you say it?
Tights are up, mites are down.
So he was essentially mineralized.
Mm-hmm.
There was stuff all over the body, and it took a long time for them to break this body.
I think I saw that. Was that on Netflix?
No, I was watching it on YouTube. Maybe originally it was on Netflix. But it was just documenting how strange this body was that they had found. But it was immensely strong, like much stronger than us. One of the interesting things was that their visual cortex, the part of the brain that would process imagery, was larger than ours, 10 to 20% larger.
Yeah.
And that so these things probably had better eyesight than us, perhaps even were able to see at night, and that this was a bigger, stronger version of a human being, like much more durable than what we are, modern 2025 Homo sapiens.
Yep.
If you just look, that's it. So that's one of them.
Cool.
Neither human nor Neanderthal.
Oh, really?
This is a published.
Is this the same? This might not be the same one. This is
know.
maybe a different one. That's a weird one, because what's that fucking thing on its head?
That's what it says. It's a stalactite growing out of it or something.
Wow. In a weird form. Weird.
Yeah, it's like a unicorn.
Yeah, like a crest.
They do have a sagittal ridge.
Yes.
Homo erectus had one. There's an offshoot in our hominin lineage called the Paranthropus, or robust Australopithecines, and they had a full-on like gorilla-style sagittal ridge. Yeah, because they were vegetarians, so they just chewed all day.
Right, so they had massive muscles to chew.
Yeah, their whole face is huge.
Wow.
Neanderthals kind of, they were just big. It's just a robusticity thing, but there is evidence from Shanidar Cave in Iraq where they were using their teeth as tools. We think they were like tanning hides. They were holding the hide in their mouth and then like scraping all the nasty bits off. Oh. And you can see that in the tooth wear. So yeah, they were pretty badass. They were the first, I don't know, I think this is cool, but a lot of people think I'm a nerd too. They were the first to use the flake. Like for 2.8 million years, we just hit a piece of rock and like, oh, this is a cool tool. But then they figured out that if you hit the rock in just the right way, the piece that falls off makes an even better tool. It took us like 2.5. Yes, exactly.
You make an arrowhead.
And from that point on, like I got to work at a place called Chez Pinot Jonzac in southern France for a summer, and it was a Neanderthal site. And we found these. Actually, it's pretty funny because when we first got there, these tools called MTA hand axes, Mousterian of Schulian tradition hand axes. And there were only 8 found in all of Europe. And they said, if you guys find one of these, we'll buy you all the beer and all the cognac you can drink. So we're in the cognac region of France. And we found one like the 4th or 5th day. We went on to find 7 more over the course of that week. We doubled the number of these things in existence
Wow.
in all of Europe. And they were not lying. They bought us so many damn beers. Like archaeologists like to drink. You know,
I'm
that's,
sure.
we dig and it's boring as hell. You know,
Yeah.
it's not Indiana Jones. We're not running around banging hot chicks and flying on planes. We're like, we got a spoon and we're doing this for 8 hours. So, yeah, I actually found the last one on the last day and it was by far the worst one. Like I had to argue that it should even count as one of these. But yeah, no, it was a cool site. So yeah, they were doing well, but we were doing better. We came in and
Well,
replaced
something
them.
happened where we replaced them.
Yeah.
But the point is, as time goes on, humans today are probably the most feeble version of humans that have ever existed.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And we're the most feeble versions of people that have existed within the last century, right? Like if you go back to humans from the 1920s versus humans from the 2020s, people have way less testosterone now, way higher instances of miscarriages, way lower sperm count. You know, there's a lot of factors that are at play right now that are changing what a human is. And if you extrapolate, if you look at the future, you would naturally say, well, we're probably going to be very thin. It seems like there's at least some sort of a push to eliminate gender. Like gender seems like it's on the table as whether or not it's even necessary. There's all sorts of new technological innovations that are leading to the possibility, at least sometime in the future, of an artificial womb. There's genetic engineering with CRISPR and a lot of other different technologies that are being explored that we might be able to engineer human beings and then even create a complete individual human being without a mother, without a father. So if you thought about what that looks like in the future, like one of our problems on this planet is we all have different ideologies, different religions, come from different parts of the world. We look different. And human beings as tribal primates have a tendency to other. We other different tribes. Those are not us. We are us. Those are the enemy. We go out.
You rally around it.
But if everybody's exactly the same and we share one mind, you know, then a lot of our problems go away.
Yeah.
If we no longer have to compete for resources, we no longer have the desire to procreate and to acquire land and to be, you know, to have a territory, we eliminate a lot of our issues. And that's what these things look like. When you look at the archetypal, these iconic sort of shapes that have been on cave walls all the way up to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, one thing they share is that they have no muscle, they have large heads, they have big eyes.
And they're childlike. They're very paedomorphic, as we say. Yeah, you just tied together like a lot of really important points related to this theory. Aspects of why they're always interested in our gametes, why they come back and put that little machine on a man to collect semen, why they're constantly taking eggs from females and implanting fetuses, pulling them back out later. Like they're clearly focused on reproduction, gamete extraction, and one of the things that might be fueling that in the future, if these are future humans, let's just assume for a second hypothetically, is that they might be having problems directly resulting from these trends toward self-domestication, these trends toward feminization, these trends toward reduced sperm counts, which is 60% across most populations of the world, in the industrialized world, 50% across the entire world. Problems with reproduction, in vitro fertilization, exogenesis chambers might help solve some of those problems, growing the fetus outside of the body. So yeah, and like you said, you know, what do they look like? They look like kind of a hybrid between males and females to some extent, but there's still an essence of gender. Like if you talk to Whitley Strieber, you know, he's with this being, he says in Communion that I had a sense that she was a woman. I don't know why, but I kind of sensed that. So it's almost like the essence of the individual, the soul of the individual still retains that sort of gender identity, even though our bodies are becoming more childlike, more gender indiscriminate. I don't know, but yeah, yet another one of those ways in which we might sort of grow together as a species.
Now, when you say they are extracting sperm, like how many of these stories do you take seriously? There's a lot of these stories.
It's a great question. Yeah,
You know, there's unfortunately for any sort of spectacular public thing that's in the zeitgeist, like alien abduction, whether it's Whitley Strieber from Communion or the John Mack books, the guy from Harvard that wrote, what was it, Abduction?
Passport to the Cosmos and Abduction. Yeah.
Yeah.
2 great books.
Great books, but these are all books about encounters, close encounters of the third kind with some sort of a being from another place. Whatever it is, it's just not a human being, and it seems to be technologically at least superior to us. And it seems to be one thing they all seem to share is they seem to be able to communicate telekinetically or telepathically.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, they aren't human, but they are very human too. So, for instance, like that's one of the main reasons I started exploring this. I was actually kind of put into this when I was 8 or 9 years old, sort of activated in a way and put on this path by a weird thing that happened to me when I was a kid.
What happened to you?
Well, so I talk about it in my first 2 books, Identified Flying Objects and the Extraterrestrial Model, where I learned about a close encounter that my dad had. He was a veterinarian in Northeast Ohio where I grew up. And he was out one night on a call with another guy. So there's 2 people. As far as Jalen Hynek's reliability scale, it has more reliability because there's multiple witnesses. It's also strange on his scale because they crested the hill. There's a bright light. This is an Amish country. There's no lights in Amish country. And all of a sudden, this bright light darts toward them, hovers just above their truck, darts back to where it was, and straight up into space, like at incredible speed. So this happened before I was born, but I overheard him telling this story to some friends one night. He got Whitley Strieber's book Communion, as most people did in the 1980s, and as they should, because it's a great book. And I walked into the living room. The book is sitting on the shelf facing out. And I remember, like it was yesterday, I sort of stopped, and there was like this light, like a white light. And then I saw this image in my mind of like an early hominin, chimpanzee-like creature, a modern human, and then that archetypal gray alien from the cover with this information. What if they're related? What if they are us from the future? And obviously, I mean, that's why I became a biological anthropologist. People are always like,
So you saw this?
Yeah, it was like a flash, like a light. And, it's weird looking back on it because I know a lot more about these experiences. I've talked to people that have had these types of experiences.
What was the setting?
It was our living room. So it was like you come in the front door and just to the left there's this living room, built-in bookshelf, Whitley's books right there. I just turned the corner, saw it, and then like just kind of it just came. Like I didn't know shit about evolutionary biology.
When
I
you
didn't
say
know
you
about
saw
UFOs.
it, like you saw it how?
In my mind. Just this white light.
Just an image.
And that image of the 3 faces, and then the question, could they be us from the future? And a lot of people are like, how'd you get into UFOs? Like, you're a biological anthropologist. It's the opposite. I got into biological anthropology to research this question of whether they could be us from the future.
Huh. So this you felt like at that moment it wasn't just like a weird thought or a dream. It felt like a message. Like, what did it feel like?
Yeah. It was a tasking. You know, I think Rupert Sheldrake said it that people don't have ideas. Ideas have people. I think that was like hey, go do this thing. And I did. That's why we're here now, talking about it. And obviously, you got to be careful about like selection bias and confirmation bias. Like I didn't go into this. I didn't go into grad school. I also didn't tell anybody in grad school I was there because they would have kicked me out. But I went into it with an open mind, but I was there to study these things because of that event when I was 8 years old.
Wow. Yeah, it is a problem, the confirmation bias. It is a problem with wanting it to be real. And I struggle with that because I desperately want it to be real. And so every time I talk to someone, I've talked to a bunch of people that are, air quote, whistleblowers. And some of them, I think, for sure, have been sent in here to distribute disinformation.
Yeah, no doubt.
For sure, because it's a great place to do it.
Yeah.
I'll listen to you.
Yeah.
I'll entertain almost anything.
Which is great. We need that.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I mean, obviously, there's people that are going to take advantage of it.
But I
too.
think it's also important for me to say I'm not convinced.
Mhm.
I don't know how much of this is horseshit, but it's not zero.